Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is November 14th, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1924, the legendary Ricky Dozen. 1930, England's own Big Daddy. 1965, the luchador known as L.A. Park. 1972, the Performance Center's head coach, Matt Bloom. And last but not least, 1986, a luchador who has gone through that Performance Center, Kalisto. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for November 14th. 2015, the iconic AWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Bockwinkel. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for November 14th. Jumping in the Wayback Machine and going all the way to 1963, where we see Killer Kowalski and Gorilla Monsoon defeat Skull Murphy and Brute Bernard to win the United States Worldwide Wrestling Federation version of the Tag Team Championships. A decade jump to 1973, at a WWF television taping in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Tony Guerrera and Dean Ho defeat Turo Tanaka and Mr. Fuji to win the WWF World Tag Team titles. Grabbing my boombox and going to the 80s, 1981. The WWF World Heavyweight Champion Bob Backlund defeated Intercontinental Champion Don Muraco in the main event of a show at the Spectrum at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Only the world title was on the line. The match had a 90-minute time limit due to the 1-hour draw between the two the previous month. However, this bout only lasted 20 minutes. The real draw of the card was a stretcher match between Andre the Giant and Killer Khan, with Andre looking for revenge on Khan for breaking his leg. Andre hit Khan with splashes before he was carried off on the stretcher. 5 years later, in 1986, the WWF World Tag Team Champions, the British Bulldogs, defeated the Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zink, via disqualification in what would appear to be a rare, at the time, babyface versus babyface match. However, the match was held in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where hometown hero Rick Martel was hugely popular. So the Bulldogs, who got their first break in the western part of Canada, Calgary, played the heels for the match. WWF knew in advance that the injured Austin would be unable to wrestle, but waited until after the pay-per-view began, and fans had already purchased the event, before running the angle and creating a storyline reason for his absence. In the main event, Big Show, subbing for Steve Austin, defeated Triple H and The Rock in a triple threat match to win the WWF World Heavyweight title. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for November 14th. I'm the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.